Guys, it's your girl, Ashley Kirkwood with the Speak Your Way to Cash podcast, where we teach you how to start at the top of the speaking market instead of working your way up from the bottom. During this show, you will hear solo episodes from me, where I'll show you how I have landed and negotiated 5- and 6-figure speaking contracts and licensing deals. You'll also hear from our amazing guests who have grown enormous speaking businesses by utilizing sales and marketing principles that work. If you want to grow your speaking business, listen to this podcast, and then afterwards, head on over to ashleynicolekirkwood.shop and grab my book, Speak Your Way to Cash, How to Start at the Top of the Speaking Market Instead of Working Your Way Up from the Bottom. Ready to dive in? Let's go. Hey, it's your girl, Ashley Kirkwood. Today, we are doing a rerun episode of one of our favorite Speak Your Way to Cash podcast interviews. I know you're going to get crazy value out of this. So go ahead, listen in, and leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. Let's get into this interview. Super excited to have with us Miss Gordon, who's going to talk about her history, her past, and kind of what she does now to help corporations get better productivity out of their veteran workforce. And we may talk about how we can expand that out even further. So welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Definitely. And explain to us a little bit about what is your business, and then how does speaking play a role in your business?
Okay. Well, first, it's Nyota Gordon. It can be kind of weird to pronounce because you've probably never seen a name like that before. And I'm a veteran. I retired after 22 years of service, and I noticed that I had a really hard time with my transition. So the focus of my company, the work, my talks, those things are to help veterans inside of organizations, whether that's a corporation or a small business, and just help them be able to be better people, focus on what their values are, their visions are, those sort of things since they've left the military, and that will ultimately help that corporation. If veterans learn how to have their own visions and their own values, they can learn how to align those values with their corporation, and that gives them, something to hold on to, something to grow with, and just being able to kind of pivot those veterans inside of the organization, which, helps you with team leading, helps you with, it turns out so you don't have as much turnover. So all of those things. So that's kind of my focus of where I want to work and I need to work.
Absolutely. And where are you at in your speaking journey now? Have you already done some engagements for corporations, or are you kind of just starting out?
I am just starting out. I was actually excited about kicking off my speaking journey with my first TEDx, but because of the coronavirus and all of that, my event has been canceled. So, I'm disappointed, but I'm not discouraged. I'm still looking to move forward. So that was going to actually be my kickoff. Things about to get it going. You saw me, I have that TED Talk, remember that? And so that was actually going to be my first, which is exciting. That would have been like my first real life speaking event, but I'm very new to this. I mean, I've done trainings and all of that sort of thing, briefings and all that stuff within the military for large crowds, small crowds, things like that, but I haven't had a speaking engagement as a civilian.
And have you retired from the military as of now? Okay.
Yes.
So do you run your business full time, or do you also have another obligation on the side?
Obligation is a strong word. I work part-time for Southwest just because it's fun, and it gave me a place to be a part of a team. You kind of miss that thing. So when I first got out, I did contracting. I'm cybersecurity by training. But then I just wanted to do something different. So I work part-time for Southwest. So, awesome. So it can be as full-time as I make it, because my other thing is, part-time.
Awesome. And who is the market that you're targeting?
I don't have a specific industry, but I am looking at the companies and organizations that veterans kind of gravitate toward. I did a search. There's a organization that does, research, and they award companies that are military, this is a good place for military people to work. And they'll rate it like bronze, gold. And so I actually have been looking at those organizations because I know that there's veterans within those organizations.
Okay, great. And are you open to expanding your market to just teaching productivity techniques or, employee engagement to employees that aren't veterans at the company as well?
Absolutely. I'm definitely open to diversity inclusion. I'm definitely open to anything like that. But since I just know that hurt that can come from transitioning and going to structure life to a not structured life and being able to create that structure in your life, that just kind of gravitated toward veterans because, those are my people, but I'm definitely open.
Definitely. Well, there's a list. Have you looked at the top 20 employers of veterans?
No, yes, maybe.
Okay. So I think that for your market specifically, because it's super narrow, you have to understand that it is really, really, really narrow. So you're looking primarily probably at very, very, very large corporations that have the budgets to have a substantial military workforce. Mm-hmm. And that's not going to be most companies. So that in mind, I would definitely look up the top 20 employers of military veterans. A Google search will give you the list, and military.com actually has a list of the top 20 employers. And it looks like the number one employer is some employer that I've never actually heard of, Science Applications International Corporation, SAIC. I've heard of SAIC. I've heard of it like that. And then you also have Boeing on here, Deloitte, of course, the Department of Homeland Security. So these are GE is another big one, Exelon. These are major, major, major companies. What I would do is figure out what resources these companies already have for veterans. They may have employee resource groups for military or ex-military professionals already in place as an employee resource group. And if that is already in place, then I would target those ERGs, the employee resource groups, to kind of get in the door. The president, typically the way the ERG landscape works is these are clubs within companies that are segmented based on race, gender, experience sometimes, and they're led voluntarily typically by other employees within the company. They typically have a budget. It is normally a lot smaller than the general corporation's budget, but it's a great lead-in. It's almost like a student group to a college, and it'll be easier for you to connect with someone in that group and provide maybe a virtual workshop or, now virtual workshop is going to be the way to go, and provide some type of a workshop to them, get some feedback, get some testimonials on your website, and utilize that to then pitch the greater organization and say, hey, I did this with this ERG. They really enjoyed it. I'd love to come in and do it for the greater corporate community, and talk them through kind of what that would look like and how you can offer those particular services.
Thank you. That's great information.
Yeah, so that's how I would kind of break it down, because you have such a narrow niche, and a smaller, and you're looking at companies with over 5,000 employees, because if they have under 5,000 employees or under maybe 1,000 is a good marker, then you have to think about the odds of them having a significant amount of veteran employees that they're willing to invest money into their professional development.
Right.
So those are just like some ideas in terms of narrowing down your market, because one of the issues that people face, or what has been your biggest hurdle in expanding out your speaking platform?
I think my biggest hurdle is just believing that it's people there for me to serve. Like, I know that there's people there to serve, and just stepping out to do it. I've been in a couple of your challenges, and what I feel like one of the biggest things that helped me was just giving me like the pitch. I like the way you're like, you don't need this 12-page pitch. You just need to be like, dude, am I talking to the right person or not? Like, and that's like was really helpful, because, I have been, overcomplicating the whole thing in my head. It's like, oh, I have to do this and I have to do that, and I have to say this. Like, first, like when you're like, am I even talking to the right person? Like, that really like did a lot for me. So.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. And it looks like so for you specifically, you'd be looking for veteran resource groups.
Mm-hmm.
And I think military.com would be a really good resource for you to kind of start with and look at. Have you used them before?
Yes.
They have a lot of good information on these veteran resource groups. And I just chatted you the link to that. One of their articles that talks about these resource groups and how companies can implement them, because you may be able to Google like veteran resource group and then, Boeing, and see what comes up on someone's LinkedIn, because if they have that listed on their LinkedIn profile, then they may be someone you want to connect with.
That's cool.
And people do overcomplicate the pitch. So you did the pitch to pay challenge. One of the things I'll say is the most important thing is figuring out, who do I talk to at this company? And so if you don't get a strategy for that, then you're drinking the ocean.
Right.
And that's tough.
Right.
So the first phase really is the research phase of, okay, what are the 100 or 200 companies that are actively recruiting veterans? And also, how does that look? So what are they doing? How many veterans do they have on staff? Because if you're going to be like a veteran recruitment specialist or a re-engagement specialist for veteran employees, then you want to figure out how can you best serve the market in a way that isn't so narrow that they're like, okay, well, this is a one-time deal. Because when you're building a business, you have to think about it like, I don't want to get a one-time engagement for $2,500 and then I have to keep selling these one-time engagements for $2,500. It's just tiring. So you really need a higher price point, larger packages, and you want to think of like 3 or 4 ways you can serve your audience.
Mm-hmm. So one of the ways I was thinking, since veterans are a little bit more introverted, a lot more private, so to do the coaching for the organizations, but be able to offer a coaching package. Like there's group coaching that they can do outside of the workspace. So there's like, there's group coaching, or there can also be like a little check-in. So that'd be kind of like a little like, hey, this is just a check-in, how you're doing. And then there's also one-on-one. So I just think because of how veterans are, like they'll sit through that training at work, they'll let that employer do that check. We did this training we're supposed to do. But as far as actually being able to serve that veteran, to be able to offer them some things that they can do from their own houses. I talked about or thought about, going on site and like, hey, I'll have office hours here. So if a veteran wants to come in and talk about some challenges they may be having, whether that's how to do this paperwork or how to do anything to have office hours. But I know a lot of veterans won't take advantage of that, just if people can see them going into that office for office hours.
Well, that's a good point. And now I think because of where we're at in the world, all your packages have to have an in-person and a virtual element to them. And when you're pitching it, you want to make it really clear, like if your company signs on with our firm, we have the ability to either do this in person or virtual. And honestly, virtual, it sounds like maybe more amenable to your audience, because they're going to say, all right, well, if I sign up, if I have a private link for the company, you can create a private link for the company and you only have 10 slots a month. They send it around. All the veterans get this link. They have access to it. The company prepaid for these slots. So it's no harm, no foul if no one shows up. It doesn't matter. You're on retainer for a certain amount of money, and you give the company a certain amount of hours every single month that you will dedicate to their veteran staff. And you give them that link and they can sign up in private. No one will know but you and them. You have a confidentiality clause in place and you help them with whatever they want. But I think for the company, what you want to have is KPIs, key performance indicators. Mm-hmm. So you definitely want to figure out, all right, here's what I can do. I have package 1, which is 1 hour presentation, one time. This is the lowest package that we offer. It's one that we've seen great results with, but for companies who want a real transformational experience, they don't go with package 1. They go with package 2, which includes a 1 hour virtual presentation, a post call to figure out how the presentation went, or maybe you include two virtual presentations and you include 10 hours of coaching And that package is, I don't know, $10,000 or $15,000. So you'll have to play with the numbers and the timing and all of that. And what I recommend is, before you figure out what you're going to include in the packages, you have to figure out what you want to make from this business.
Right.
Because you are a veteran, like you served. So you're always thinking of how to serve and how to help. And so for people who I've worked with who've been in historically service-based professions, it's been difficult for them to think about the money first and the service second. Like, your integrity is why you'll always serve well. So that is not my concern at all. My concern is, how do we make sure that you're serving at such a high level that you're not overworking yourself so that it dampens the service? Because that's what I have seen happen, is if your prices are too low, you have way too many clients, it's way too much management in order for you to make the numbers you need to make it sustainable. And so the level of service, or the way that you serve, decreases because you're spread too thin. So I would think first, like, all right, are we trying to do 6 figures over the next 12 months? Are we trying to do, and I say 6 figures, which is broad. Are we trying to do 100,000 over the next 12 months? Are we trying to do 50,000 over the next 12 months? And if so, how many companies are you willing to work with to reach those goals? And then come up with packages that will fit in with your financial goals and also will help you to serve on the highest level possible.
Like that. I don't have any problems charging people for service. And the only reason why I know that is because, so I've been out since 2016. So I know in order to get the changes and the transformations that not only that you want, but you need, you have to pay for these things. And I've paid for lots of coaching and courses and things. So I know I don't mind charging people for a thing. And and the thing that I have learned is that you appreciate something better when you pay for it. And so
you do.
It's just better. And that's kind of one of the things I was kind of thinking about when I was saying that the organization would pay for these coaching. If the veteran doesn't have anything invested into it, I don't know if they'll get it. You know,
I think there's a certain population in corporate America that just uses resources. And those are just the superstars. Like, I remember my company would offer speech coaching when I was doing trial work at Kirkland, and they brought in these 2 world-renowned public speaking coaches, and they trained us on how to better present to the jury. And I signed up like 2 or 3 times, went all in, like, got great feedback, improved. And even to this day, I utilize those principles when presenting. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, I am so glad I worked for a company that actually provided these resources. Now, what I will say is, some companies, and this is where you could maybe help them, they don't roll out the resource in the way that they should to get people excited about it. And one of the things that you could do that I think would make you stand out would say, hey, I'm going to give whatever package you buy, we're going to talk about a rollout plan, how I recommend you roll this out to your veteran employees so that they are excited to take advantage of it, because you're the expert on communicating to veterans. You know their fears, you know their concerns, and they don't have that expertise necessarily at the company. And so if, in addition to buying the package, you give them verbiage to send out via email and reminder emails and things like that, it makes it very plug and play for them. Because otherwise, I mean, it's still the company's money. So you're selling to an individual at the company who's going to go get approval, and then it's the company's money. It's not their personal money either. So they're not necessarily thinking, oh, well, how do I best market these services? And you want them to market it so that you can reach your KPIs. You can show the company that the things that you're doing are actually helping. And you want to think through what those things would be at the outset. Like, how can you prove after a year that what you're doing actually helps the people that you're serving? Because that's what will help you to get rebooked and get your contracts extended.
That's good right there. That rollout plan. That's good. I like that a lot.
They're going to need that, because even with colleges, when I go to speak and I'm just like, did you market this? And I'll see them post one little flyer on Twitter the day before the event. And I'm just like,
who's going to come to this? And they still pay the full rate, whether there's 5 students or 5,000. But for me, it's like, I don't just do it for the money. I also do it for the impact. So if I'm speaking to an empty room, I've gotten paid, that's great, but the impact has fallen flat. Right. So I find that people, they buy these services, they get them approved, they're excited about it, but then they get busy. And they're like, okay, well, whatever. But you're like, hey, this is the rollout plan. I want you to send this email on this date, this email on this date. Feel free to tailor it and then check in on them. Send automatic check-ins and make sure they're actually promoting it and using the verbiage that you suggest.
So good. And that's why I like that. I like the whole impacting, because that's why I don't really gravitate toward one-on-one. I like the idea. So for me, I like policy. I like research. I like rules and regulations. Like, I create this one thing and it has this second, third, fourth order of effect. And that's what speaking does for me. I can do this one speech, then I can break it up into these things and do this. And now it's in tweets and now it's a newsletter and all that. So I can do this one thing and it has this far reaching, like, I love that kind of thing. That's, I like policy, like that sort of thing, because it has such an impact.
And you can record it and do all types. Now, I will say, for some of the companies on the list that I think I may have sent you, the top 20 employers of veterans. Let me make sure I said this.
Yeah, you can't do that. I already know what that is.
Like some of these companies, because I've spoken at Boeing and they were like, no pictures. And I didn't know before getting, because it was a third party organization that hired me to speak there, but someone from Boeing was there and they were just like, no pictures. Is that a picture? No pictures, no this, no. So it's like very, very, very tight security, which is why I would say for you, one of the things that may be a little challenging will be getting those testimonials, because some of them make you sign, a lot of the companies make you sign non-disclosure agreements. So you may want to think through talking to some meetup veteran groups or groups outside of the corporate space, but still doing the same speech and letting the individual veterans give you that testimonial, that social proof that it works, because that you can easily display on your website. And the way you display it so that it still goes in line with the corporation would be, veteran working in the healthcare space or something that makes their title look very corporate. So HR director, and just use their first name, maybe not their last name, just say like Bob, HR director at large accounting firm, Kristen, HR director. So you can mask it a little bit, but it'll give you some of that social proof that you'll still need in order to show that your speech works. Because these organizations have tight security. Yeah. Really tight. They're very secretive about what goes on. Rightfully so. I mean, I don't know if I want them to be loose with the information they have.
You don't want that.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, that's winning right there. And I was also thinking of maybe I can do like an assessment for them, and what that looks like is, well, what is that working environment for veterans? So just kind of being there and just kind of maybe talk to not just the veterans, but also just the regular employees, to just kind of see what kind of environment it is. Even a little bit of kind of what kind of systems they're using. They probably won't let me get too much in that, but like, do you have SOPs? Because that stuff has an impact on veterans. Like, if it's not structured, then that's crazy land for like veterans. So even if it's stuff like that, do you have SOPs? Do you have policies? Are the chain of command, like, do the people know who their leadership, who to go to talk to about a certain thing? Because if that stuff is loosey-goosey, a veteran is completely disrespectful, just like that. Because they're like, there's no rules here. There's no regulations. I do whatever I want. I'm going to come to work. Maybe I'm going to take over this team. Definitely. Like, because there's no structure there. So even to do like an assessment and just kind of see what that looks like and present it in a way where there's not like accusing, but like, gosh, this is great here, but have you considered this?
Absolutely. And that could be a part of the not the treatment plan that you give the company, but it could be a part of the roadmap that you give the company. Like, okay, month 1, we want to focus on getting these surveys out. I want to analyze the results, and then I want to develop a personalized I want to develop your presentations based on the survey results. And that is just taking a really consultative approach. There are a lot of employee engagement surveys out there. One thing that may be helpful is to find out how many of those you can find that are free and on the internet. Go through them and see how they could better be tailored to veterans and what you could do to make a survey that is tailored to the audience that you're trying to attract. That's definitely something that could work. But then too, I think outside of just the veteran space, one of the things that you should consider is just thinking about how can your training specifically, what about your training would help all employees at the company, so that when you're presenting these plans, if someone comes back and says, hey, I don't even have 50 veterans at the company. I don't know if we can invest at this level for such a small population of our employee group. What do you have for other employees? You can say, like, we also have a program for all of your employees that helps with retention, and it focuses on X. And so whether that be discipline, productivity, it could be any number of things that you've learned as a veteran, managing up, putting that back into play for even newer employees, how to work in a structured environment, because they're the opposite. Like, if you're a new employee, you probably went from college, which is totally unstructured, to a corporate environment. Mm-hmm. And for these companies, the Department of Homeland Security, Exelon, GE, those companies that hire a lot of veterans are going to have more systems, processes, and procedures in place. Mm-hmm. And navigating corporate culture for someone fresh out of college or fresh out of grad school is a totally different environment. Yeah. So that adaptability element, that is very tough for some people.
I like that. I like this a lot. And you gave me a good idea about being like an adaptability class, not just doing it for, and like that name. So I tested it out with some of my friends, and I was like, what do you think about this adaptability? They're like, I like adaptability lifeguard, because, for one, because I was looking at, the Heroes Lifeguard, because I had talked to Matthew, and I was like, that sounds so cheesy though, just because of how, how I am as a person. But I do like that adaptability, and really, because that's another word, instead of just saying transition coach, something like that, I help people adapt. And when you are in the military, even whatever kind of transition you're in, going from college to corporate space to entrepreneurship, side, corporate space with doing your side hustle thing, all of that stuff is being able to adapt. So I really like that name. So
definitely. And then think through what that means about your personal brand story. Mm-hmm. And I think for a lot of folks, what you do is extraordinarily heroic. For you did it so long, you may kind of just think it was I don't know, okay, this is what I did, and now I don't do it anymore, and I served, and that's it. But I would really lean into the fact that our image of veterans is heroic. Most people aren't going to, I don't know, if someone messaged me and they're like, oh, I'm a veteran, I'm trying to do X, Y, and Z in the speaking world, I'm not going to blow them off. But if someone is messaging me hey, I want this random thing, they don't tell me anything about their background, and it's, 10 at night, then I'm like, okay, I'll respond later. We'll see what happens. But, I think you should utilize that and talk through and make sure on your LinkedIn profile, on your website, everywhere, your brand story is there. And it could be, I remember working 10 p.m. at night. We had a game plan. Something happened. The flashing lights go off, whatever it was, whatever situation or whatever stories you have across your 22-year experience that show how you are an adaptability queen, or whatever you want to call it, that shows your ability to adapt, and then taking that and then mirroring that within the corporate space. Because right now with coronavirus, people are having to adapt. They're having to adapt. And so for some people, it's fine. They know how to adapt. They've already been doing things online. They're comfortable with that. But for other people, it is like pulling teeth. They are just I don't know how to turn on this computer at home. I don't have a secretary. I don't have a printer. I don't have any, they're just complaining. And the employees that companies need now they need their employees to have a keen ability to adapt quickly to respond fast and to do it calmly. And those are skills that people in your position have innately and have developed you've developed it over 2 decades.
Right.
And so helping people right now virtually, letting them know, like, look, I'm an adaptability consultant. I help companies get their employees to adapt. I teach strategies to do it. I have a proprietary system that I walk them through for helping them to increase their adaptability. And I can test their adaptability quotient. I can tell you how adaptable they are, what areas we need to work on, and we need to get them to adapt quickly now. Do you want to do a call tomorrow about how we can potentially help you with this? Because that's the pitch now.
I want to call.
People have to adapt.
Where's the link? Yeah.
People have to adapt now. And I think managers are struggling because they're just like, I don't even know how to get people, there's so much going on, but it's like, I don't know how do I coach them through adapting when I'm stressed out about my job? I'm stressed out about what I have going on. So this is the time for consultants to really offer a helping hand.
Right. And the thing is, you do know what to do. You give them work to do. You do know what to do. You give them something to focus on. You give them that ends up being productive for your company. And it's also a distraction for what they have going on in their life. So you give them a challenging task. That's what you do. And that's what you do for yourself too. That's what we do for all stuff. You need to find something hard that's been hard. You thought it was hard and work on that thing. That's what you do.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So, I mean, teaching that, rolling that out, making sure they understand that, but people, they want the step-by-step, the play-by-play, walking them through it slowly, giving them step 1, giving them step 2, giving them step 3. So what you offer is really timely. And so I guess, what are you going to do as a result of this call? So what's on your to-do list after this that will help you move forward in your speaking business?
Fix that website first. I'm gonna throw something up real quick that doesn't look so shady. And it's not like I don't know how to do it. Like I told you, I'm like IT, I'm cyber by profession. It's kind of like, the cobbler's kids have no shoes, right? So, so that's one of the things. And just really going and to look at these companies, like you suggested, to look at the companies, the size of their veterans, and being able to kind of pivot that conversation. It's like, I can help your veterans and I can help I don't even know what to call, like regular employees. We're just talking to each other, right? And, so I can really impact your entire organization, but, let me start with your veterans if I can.
Yeah. And you can say, like, I specialize in working with veterans, but some of the resources that we offer help the greater employee body as well.
Right. Right. Because if your veterans are broken, everyone's going to feel that in the company, They're just going to feel it. But if your veterans are performing and leading like we've been trained to do, your entire organization is going to be able to capitalize off of that benefit through leadership, through less turnover, being able to really elevate those teams. Like, there's just so many things when you can really energize one veteran in your organization is impactful. And there's checklists and things you get to check off when you have veterans in your organization, especially if they're disabled veterans. And most of us are, because there's something like you got jacked up in some kind of way. That's just what it is. So, and just being able to have that veteran and give them purpose within your organization, it just elevates the entire organization. So it's cool.
Yeah, 100%. And then you want to make sure you're writing about these topics as well. So like on LinkedIn, for other articles, for other large publications that your clients are going to be reading. So really figure out what they're going to be reading. And then what signature speech or program are you currently pushing?
So I had one for my TED Talk, but they were like, don't you even think about giving it to anyone because we're still going to do our thing. Like, you have to perform. Well, no, you have to perform that talk for them first. So I don't know. I need another talk that's a lot more corporate specific, but not really, right? But something that people can use at home, but it's for the corporate space. And I guess it's kind of like what we were just talking about, doing something hard and what areas that can have, what impact it can have. I don't have one on the tip of my tongue, even though I just got done doing your challenge. I know. I know.
So I think if you're going to focus on adaptability, now that you have a focus on that, I would come up with something around adaptability that has adaptability in the title. And then even if it's just like the ABCs of adaptability, and the A stands for, the B stands for, the C stands for, something simple, but something that you can really dig your teeth into, get research surrounding. But, you know, the challenge videos are up for the next 2 weeks. So I would go back, look at those, and like just get an outline for that signature speech, because that's the product you're selling. And that helps with your pitching.
Yes. I have like a framework that it's VET. I don't know how you get it. It's like, but it's VET squared, and then it's E and a T, and it's all this, but it's too long, so it can just be, so it looks like that. Oh, you can't see that. You can't. So it's V squared because it's value and vision. And then it's entrepreneurship, but it's entrepreneurship, whether it's micro entrepreneurship, because entrepreneurship is actually the vehicle that got me out of the house. I was in a sad place. I started like flipping houses and all this stuff, but only because that entrepreneurship taught me how to talk to civilians. It taught me how to, like, you can't cuss with everyone. You can't do all this. Like, you have to articulate. And then that third one is like transformation. And it's like transformation within your finances, your emotional health, and also your physical health. And then there's like the parentheses, which is your quality of life. Where do you live? What do you want to see? Who do you want to be around? And then there's like a little heart, and that's like self-care. So, but to make it easy, I like that it's just VET. So I could just pick 3 of those, you know.
Yeah.
VET.
I think that's really good. And I think for the entrepreneurial one, that could turn into empathy. That could turn into, you could keep it as being entrepreneurial, how you can be entrepreneurial even at your job.
Yeah, there was within organizations. Because they're going to want to go to work. That's just how we, like, you want that structure, you want to be at work, but what does entrepreneurship look like within your corporate space? What does that look like?
Definitely. And companies want entrepreneurial employees who take charge, who aren't just waiting for someone to give them orders, who can really help the organization grow. So I like that you have that. I would come up with a name that kind of, how do you weave in adaptability into those 3 things? What are some of your takeaways? And then you have the framework for how to build those out with stories and all of that stuff, stories, studies, and also the takeaway. So like for each one of those, have your story, have your study, and then have your takeaway. But that sounds like you actually have an outline. You just need to shore it up and figure out how you're going to pitch that to the audience that you're focusing on.
Yes.
So for you, you're going to get the website up and running, find your target list of companies. So those are going to be really, if you can find 100 companies that hire a lot of veterans. And then you're going to come up with also your veteran packages. So the packages we talked about, whether that be coaching and consulting plus the 1-hour keynotes, or however you're going to develop those packages, and have 3 tiers at different price points. And then you're going to finish your signature speech for sure. Finish that outline. At least you've started. So you've gotten the framework of it down. And that's a really good, that's a great name for it. Whether you're talking to veterans or not, like, you're a vet, so it's fine and they'll remember it. So those are some things that you can work on, which I think I'm excited to see how this plays out for you though.
Yes, and I like the idea, like you talked to us about turning our signature speech into a course. And then I saw that today that Kamanzi talked about licensing our courses. So that also gives me some more opportunity to just bundle up this whole bad boy and just be like, yes, this is
definitely. And this is a great time to get your product offerings together because everyone is kind of slowed down a little bit. And so we can really focus on that. So, Nyota,
yes,
where can our audience find you if someone wants to hire you to speak, or they want to connect with you because they're also a vet and or looking for an adaptability coach?
Okay, you can find me at transition365.com. You can also find me at Instagram at that same Transition365, and also on Facebook, Transition365, Twitter, Transition365. So you can find me at any of those platforms. I'm more active on Facebook, and in my head and in my hopes, I'm going to be more active on Instagram. So look for me there, because if you're there, I'll be there. So look for me there on Instagram. So I'd like to thank you so much for this opportunity. I definitely appreciate this. This was pretty awesome.
Thank you. I'm glad that you got something out of it. And guys, you heard her give her websites. We'll also post it in the links to the show notes. So just look under this episode wherever you're listening, and we'll have all of her links there. But thanks again for listening to another awesome episode of Speak Your Way to Cash. All right. Wasn't that interview amazing? If you're anything like me, you have pages full of notes. But here's the thing. Before you head out, I want you to go to facebook.com and join the Speak Your Way to Cash Facebook group. That is where I am. That's where a ton of other speakers are, a ton of other people who listen to the show. We all congregate there and chat. And it's 100% free. Now, if you're ready to take your speaking career to the next level, I have 2 ways for you to do that. One, you can go to ashleynicolekirkwood.com/SYWTC live replay and pick up the live replay. That training is 7 modules, chock full of information. It's crazy. Go over there, read all about it. Or if you want a more personal experience, you already know that you want to be a speaker, you're ready to fully commit, and you want someone to walk you through it and save you tons of time Googling and doing it on your own, then book a VIP day with me. You can go to ashleynicolekirkwood.com, scroll down until you see the VIP day section, and get more information on that there. All right. Thank you guys again for watching. Please do not forget to leave us a review. That is how we keep this train rolling and get some of the best speakers in the world to get on this show. So please, please, please leave a review. Shoot me a message on Facebook or Instagram, and Facebook in the Speak Your Way to Cash group, Instagram at the Ashley Nicole Show. And I'd be more than happy to chat with you and say hi. All right, y'all have an awesome, awesome day.